In the last hands-on, I was supposed to show two APIs in the same program, but I forgot to do that. So that's why I'm creating one more video to add one more API in the same program. It's the same program, product API from file.py, and this is the API or the web service that we have already created. Now what am I going to do is that I'll be creating a new API which will send or which will show different details. And this is how the architecture would be. You can use Postman, you can use browser. I'll also show you curl or CURL. We can use that from command line also. But anyway, what we'll be doing is that we have already created this list product API, and whenever we send request to it, we get the product ID and product name. Basically all the product IDs and all the product names in the file. Now I'll be creating a new API, list price quantity, which will send product ID, price and quantity for all the products or all the records in the file. Just a call out, this is not a good practice to read records from files. We should store it in some databases and get the records individually. But as this is the first API or the first hands-on, that's why I'm showing you using the easiest method, which is reading from a file. Obviously in future videos, I'll add databases to it also. So there will be different types of databases like in-memory database, NoSQL database and relational database. Let's go ahead and complete the hands-on. And this is the program. What will I do is nothing special. I'll just copy and paste the existing program, and the name of the API would be list price and quantity. Similarly, the name of the function would be list price quantity, and I'll open the file, I'll read the lines, and I'll put the items in a dictionary. Same is the case with items list. Product ID would be there, but instead of product name, I'll use price, or basically I'll retrieve price and then also the quantity of each products. So these are the three information or three columns that I'm going to send. Of course, price is not the first element and neither is quantity. Let's see the location or the position of these fields, which is price and quantity. Okay, so this is price, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, and quantity is 4 and 5. I'll have to change it. Instead of 1, it will be 3, and here it will be 5, and that's it. Nothing else has to be done. I'll be using two APIs. I'll be using both list product and list price quantity. So let's start our Flask application and then go ahead and execute it. All right, it has started as usual. First, I'll use the browser. The first one is list product. Let's see whether it works or not. It works just like before. And now I'll add or use the additional API that you have created, which is list price quantity. And it is also working. So the price is 911.82, product ID is this one, and quantity is 71. Same is the case in the other, for the other records also. Seems like the price has been put in the first place, which is perfectly fine. This is not an issue at all. Let's try this from Postman also. And this is my Postman application. I'll just send it. This is the list product and I can see all the products here. Likewise, I'll send the list price quantity API also, and I can see the price, product ID and quantity. Postman has a few additional features, or actually a lot of additional features, which are not there in the browser or maybe in the command line. For example, if you see here, there's a tab or drop down which says JSON. Now, if I click on this, there are multiple options, as you can see. If I use XML, the output would be shown in XML. If I use HTML, the output would be shown in HTML. Same is the case with JavaScript. It would be shown in JavaScript. It is JavaScript object notation, by the way. It can be raw also. It is not changing because I'm getting it from a file. I have not done any fancy transformation in the program. That is also perfectly fine. So these are the various options, and there's a preview tab also. And if you click on preview, it will show you in columns and rows. So the first column is price, the second column is product ID, and the third column is quantity. And it is also showing the number of records. So we have 8 records in the file, it is showing as such. So there are 8 records, and you can visualize also if you want. So we have table, we have linear chart, we have bar graph. Now to use this feature, I'll have to agree to certain terms and conditions. Let's not do that. But anyway, these are the additional things. Of course, as we go further in our course, we'll use the other methods also, like get, post, put, etc. And there are other settings also, like authorization, headers, body, script settings, which we'll see later on in our hands-on. So that's why we'll be using Postman the most, wherein we get so much of information, or we can do so much of things, or we can play around with the APIs with multiple other options and features as well. Apart from Postman and browser, we can use the terminal also, and there's a command called curl or CURL. After CURL or after curl, just paste the API or the resource, it will show you the output. Likewise, if I use the other API, it would show me the output here also. So you can use the browser, you can use Postman, or you can use the curl command also. In curl command also, you can use HTTP request methods like get, post, put, delete, etc. But there's a lot of work to type in the command line. So that's why I will use Postman, and now onwards, Postman would be the standard way to test the APIs that we create. So I've stopped the Flask application. There might be a question lingering in your head. What if we have hundreds of APIs? Right now we have only 2 APIs. So it is fine. What if, let's say, I have 50 APIs here, and then use the APIs as we have been using these 2 so far? Will it impact the performance? Will it search all the APIs and then match and then execute the function? Will Flask do program execution like that, or something else would happen? The answer is definitely no. What Flask does is that it creates kind of an hash map in memory. Whenever you execute the program, the API and the method mapping is stored in the memory by Flask. So this is done by the framework itself, which is the Flask framework. So what it does is that it goes and checks the API that we are sending and the corresponding function, and what is the location of that function in the program. So it goes to that particular position and executes that function. Whereas adding more lines of codes might impact the overall performance of the program, but it has nothing to do with individual API execution. Flask will not do a complete search of all the APIs and do a matching of all the APIs and then execute it. That is not how it happens. Now I think we are done with hands-on 1. Let's go to the next topic.